Hello everyone, welcome to today's presentation on unlocking LP profitability in Uniswap V3. How can you maximize alpha? My name is Naomie, I'm a non-chain product manager at Kaiko, leading crypto market data provider. At Kaiko, we have gathered some of the brightest minds in the field, along with industry experts, to deep dive into the intricacies of Uniswap V3. In the world of decentralized finance, Uniswap V3 has emerged as a prominent platform for liquidity provider to generate alpha. Today, we will cover a key strategy to help LPs in alpha profitabilities in Uniswap V3. So whether you are a blockchain newcomer, a DeFi expert, or an LP, get ready to be inspired, empowered, informed. Today, we will unlock the true potential of Uniswap V3. Okay, so what's on the agenda today? We first talk about Uniswap market dominance and the need of data to unlock alpha. Then we'll talk about Uniswap V3 LP, and at the end, we will turn our attention into the all-important subject of LP profitability. The first slide sheds in light Uniswap market dominance, especially Uniswap V2 and V3, which represent 96% of Ethereum DEX liquidity pool and 90% of annual trade volume. Furthermore, Uniswap competes with major SECs in terms of trading volume. Here we have an example of the weekly volume market share of Coinbase and Uniswap V3, and we can see that the weekly trade volume of Uniswap V3 nearly match Coinbase within the last few years. And there are also several factors that explain the Uniswap dominance. They are the pioneer of the automated market maker model. We just revolutionize decentralized trading. Okay, so first, to generate alpha in Uniswap V2, the strategy is quite straightforward. You supply funds, and by supplying one fund in token A and token B, you can generate fees that depend on the volume trade on this specific trading pair. In Uniswap V3, the strategy is a little bit more complex due to the concept of tick. So you will not provide liquidity to a specific trading pair, but you concentrate your liquidity into a specific price range. In this slide, we can see that Uniswap V3 offers a diversity of fees ranging from 0.01 to 1%, and this fee structure provides a wide range of options for liquidity provider to choose from based on their preference and profit goal. To maximize alpha, an LP need to compare several factors, such as several fees, share, and swap fee level. I don't know. Okay, great. The second graph shows the liquidity reconstruction by tick range in Uniswap V3. So LP aims to strategically position their liquidity in tick range where there is less liquidity and a higher probability of price movement. By doing so, they can expose their they can be more exposed to a price fluctuation within a specific tick range. Okay, and a trade that came for LPs is just-in-time liquidity. Just-in-time liquidity meaning adding and removing liquidity concentrated liquidity in a specific tick range to capture all the value in the block. It represents a trade for non-just-in-time liquidity LPs because they have it has the potential to invalidate previous alpha generation strategies. Detecting and mitigating this trade requires a comprehensive understanding of the Uniswap V3 ecosystem. And this is where data play a crucial role. The data we need to detect just-in-time liquidity is information on pending swap and on historical market depth, etc. And it can help us to spot the just-in-time liquidity in real time. So this graph shows that adding and removing the same quantity of token within the same upper and lower range is not just an isolated event, but it actually happens a lot. It actually represents like 50% of liquidity events on that specific like random day. That was like January 12, and it represents 90% of all liquidity event volume. So if you are an institutional or like someone that wants to trade in DeFi, so having the full picture of what is happening on chain, meaning like the information of a snapshot and event, is the best way to mitigate your risk. Another trade that happens to all LP is like impermanent loss. So if you're an LP, you are like constantly going against the market, meaning that if the market go up and or down, you are constantly like exposed to risk. You can like check the impermanent loss rate by comparing like two strategies, so the odd strategy and the liquidity providing strategy. So in blue here you have the liquidity, the LP strategy, which is like the value of your portfolio where tokens are invested in a liquidity Uniswap pool. And in pink, you have like a demonstration of the HODL strategy, which is like the value of a portfolio where tokens are held in a separate wallet. So you can easily check that the blue curve is like always under the pink curve, and it crosses in a specific point, which is like the actual price where you provide liquidity. If you plot the difference between VP minus VH, we obtain the chart of the impermanent loss. So here in red, the shape of the curve is concave, meaning that as much as you are going like far away your actual price, you are exposed to impermanent loss. The loss is like compensated by fees that you are always encounter when you encounter a loss, and we will just see like at the end how to evaluate the estimated fees for an LP. Okay, so just like on Uniswap V3, an LP suffers from impermanent loss only when the market price crosses its LP price range. So you have here, like in green, the lower and the upper tick range. In red, the actual price, and in blue, the impermanent loss. So represented by the VP minus VH. As an LP, you have like three possibilities: or you provide liquidity on an upper price range, or on a lower price range, or in the actual price range. And this is exactly like the only case when you face impermanent loss. If we take an example of when you place liquidity in an upper range, so here, for example, you place liquidity between 1.43 and 1.46, and as soon as the actual price don't cross like 1.43, you don't encounter impermanent loss. So this formula provides a comprehensive understanding of Uniswap V3, as the code has been like reverse engineered by Kaiko to derive this equation. So rather than in Uniswap V3, rather than having liquidity within a single price range, liquidity can be sprinkled across multiple ranges, leading to a summation of value. So in this graph, you have like the amount of liquidity depending on the price range where you provide liquidity. The graph on the left is like quite interesting because it shows that if you are just concentrating on VP this time and not like VP minus VH, so just on the liquidity, just on the LP position that LP have, we can see that the shape of the curve is concave, meaning that the gamma of the curve is negative. The gamma is like the second derivative of the curve and the first derivative of the delta. A negative gamma means that as the price of the underlying asset moves significantly, the value of the portfolio decreases, which is like the definition of impermanent loss. So the more the underlying price move, the more the value of your portfolio decreases. A negative gamma implies a positive theta. So theta is like the derivative of the portfolio with respect to time, which like in this case represents the fees that we are earning like with them, and we are like always positive. So the graph here, like the three curves, so the green, the yellow, and the blue one represent three liquidity allocation with three different price range. By just like providing liquidity to 100 price range, you will have like an aggregate of all liquidity allocation, which represents the payoff curve. Okay, this is like super interesting. This graph shows a relationship between liquidity and payoff curve in Uniswap V3. So the graph, the blue graph represents a distribution of liquidity with the Uniswap V3 pool across different price range. So as we saw, like you can like provide liquidity like in different price range, and the pink one represents the payoff associated with liquidity provision in Uniswap V3. Meaning like all the value of the portfolio change with different level of the underlying asset price. To understand the characteristic of the payoff, whether it's like convex, concave, log, or short strangle, give you like insightful information to assess the risk and to make informed investment decision. So at Kaiko, we discover that the liquidity curve and the payoff curve are like directly linked, meaning that by strategically allocating your liquidity across like different price range, you can check like your payoff curve and like designing like your gain profile. Meaning like we have like two use cases with this formula. Or like you are an LP, so your goal is to hedge against impermanent loss. And to do so, you need to check the payoff curve in order to replicate it. Or you are not yet an LP, but you have like a strategy, and you can like distribute, like strategically like allocate your distribution across a liquidity curve. Okay, you can like strategically like put like just like liquidity in like different tick range in order to like replicate the strategy. It's a powerful tool so for liquidity provider to do like custom strategy. Okay, so when we talk about like impermanent loss, we talk that you always like encounter impermanent loss, and when you encounter impermanent loss, you are gaining fees. So if you want to evaluate estimated fees in an LP strategy to know if your hedging strategy is like enough worth it, so at Kaiko we provide like a we have like a proprietary formula that explicitly predicts the fees that will be collected. So it's based on two factors. The first factor is like the sigma, so the volatility, and the second one is like the time to maturity. So and in our case, it's like how many time you will live, like for how long you will be like an LP. And higher volatility and a higher time duration in the pool lead to higher fees because like there will be like more trading, so that's quite obvious. What is not obvious is like you can see that the average higher maximum fees is like the tick range just below the actual range, meaning that you are more likely to get like more fees if you provide liquidity in the tick range just below the actual range. For this purpose, for this use case, we use a constant volatility, but at Kaiko we also work on a powerful tool which is like the realized volatility to have like a more precise estimated fees with a more precise volatility tool. So thank you. So in conclusion, maximizing entry profitability in Uniswap V3 require a deep understanding of the ecosystem, access to reliable data, and strategic decision making. So by understanding the relation between liquidity and payoff curve, by evaluating estimated fees, and by gaining like some market insight, we'll have like the full picture to unlock the LP, like to unlock alpha generation strategy in Uniswap V3. So together, like let us harness the knowledge and power of data to unlock the full picture of LP generation strategy. Thank you.
Hi. So yeah, I saw like you touched on JIT briefly. So there was an article from Uniswap Lab research on like September of last year. I think the conclusion that JIT was kind of irrelevant. It wasn't affecting that much. And I did talk with like Xinwen and Austin Adams, and their concern was actually not on JIT, but on statistical orb affecting profitability.
Okay. Yes, we also heard that a lot, that just-in-time liquidity like doesn't affect really like your strategy, but we just by showing like this graph, you can see that it's actually like happened like a lot, and is actually like represent like a big quantity of volume. So that's the reason why we are just focusing on just-in-time liquidity on our alpha generation strategy. Is this answering your question?
Also, the data has changed since last year in terms of like the amount of JIT that's happening.
Yes, this is
Okay.
this is like the actual data.
So what are the threat of statistical orb?
What is the statistic?
Statistical arbitrage.
Statistical research. So I'm not the team who like work on this specific use case, so I don't know. But like, don't hesitate to contact like the research team at Kaiko. They actually like work on the just-in-time liquidity and could answer your question on statistical arbitrage. Thank you.